civilian population doesn't really understand us at all, and they worry. But that's for them to worry, so that's all right.
So acting is a sense of studying human behavior and then being able to replicate it honestly, either on stage or in film. The parts we play as human beings. I'm a husband, a father, a brother. I'm, a son. I'm a neighbor. I'm a concerned citizen. I'm all those things, as we all are. We're all those things. They're parts we play. You know that you change your personality depending on who you're going to meet. If you're going to go see Nan, you're going to go see your Nana or something, you change, don't you? You be polite and you're sweet and oh, they love you. And then you go, okay, let's get out of here. And we do. We change our personalities depending on who we are around. So we are playing a role. We are playing different parts in our lives. You're playing a different part if you're on a date. You're playing the part of best behavior. I only want to show him or her my best side, So it's role playing. And that we do it all the way through our lives. Sometimes we role play when we feel a lack of confidence and we have to just wash it over us and walk through that door and pretend that we are confident. Role playing. So it's all fair. We all do it already. Just get good at it and accept it, that it's fine. I realized, well, if I'm really attracted to this sensation of emotion and the empowerment that it gives me, then I really have to figure out a way to get good at this. And so I went through a series of courses and a bunch of different teachers, always searching for what struck my sensibility as being honest and valuable. And the search continues. I feel like I'm just on a lifetime course of that. I don't feel like I've come to some place and I go, okay, that's it. It's constantly changing and drifting, and I've gotten to be so used to that lifestyle that it would be foreign not to live that. I realized that I needed to develop a really strong work ethic. And I was very fortunate that I realized that, okay, so I'm not a genius, but I have some life experience now. How do I apply myself? Well, just work hard. I always knew that if entering into the world of acting, I didn't think about the level of success. I really didn't. I wanted to just be able to say honestly that I make my living as an actor, however meager that might have been. If it meant I was sharing a flat with 4 other actors, so be it. If I can make a living as an actor, that's my goal. And that happened when I was 25 years old, and I've never done anything other than that, other than act. And I'd be perfectly happy. I really honestly believe that. If Malcom in the Middle never happened, if Breaking Bad never happened, if all these other great things never happened, because I fell in love with acting. I absolutely fell in love with it and realized, oh, this is a long-term relationship. I'm willing to fight for this relationship when it gets hard. And that's why I say to you, please find something that you love to do. Because when it gets hard, and it will, that's what sustains you. The love you have for your work. It's no different than a relationship. The love you have for the relationship. If you give up when it gets hard, that relationship wasn't meant for you. And it will get hard. Your personal relationships, there will be times when it's hard. If you're a type of person that just wants to walk away from that, you're going to have trouble throughout your entire life. So I just took the same philosophy into the work. There will always be actors who are better than me. I absolutely know that. And there will always be actors who are not as good as me. I know that too. What makes the difference? I always felt I can outwork them. I can continue working, just put my nose down and work. There are very few people I've worked with who are absolute geniuses. It's hard to even imagine someone. The rest of us just have to work hard. There's no magic potion, there's no shortcut. It's about hard work. It's what you're doing right now. It's all about work. And so when you enjoy your work, then it's like, then you're something you're already thinking about and loving about, and wake up with ideas. That's when you know you've found the right relationship, when you found the right relationship in your work as well. I hope that for all of you. You have to work at a relationship. It's not going to just happen. It doesn't just magically get good. You put effort into it. That's the same thing with your careers, as you'll find out. But, and I will say this gladly, is that I was very lucky. There is no career that is made in the arts. None. And for those of you who are in the arts, music or dance or painting or sculpting or whatever, acting, writing, there will be no success for you unless you get lucky. You look back on anybody in the arts, anybody who is successful, and they will be able to point to several moments in their lives when they got lucky. Does that mean you don't work? Of course not. The luck is only the opportunity meets preparation, and when the door is open, you have to be able to deliver. You just got to keep knocking on the door. You just got to have a lucky break. I've had several. Why? I don't know. I really don't know. Just try to live a good life. I always tell young actors too, it's a tough one. Most of you are not going to make it as a living, as a profession. But if you feel the burning desire in whatever your chosen profession is, if you feel that burning desire, you must try. You must. Because the only true defeat is not attempting. I would suggest and advise you to have the courage to go get lost. Get your education. Own that, and you will. Best in the world here. And then go get lost so that you can get found. Maybe you'll find something. Maybe you'll have an experience in that year or two or whatever that changes you as a human being, that gives you an opening to through a window that you would not have experienced if you went right from here into business, into London, and you go along that path. Open up your world. I know a lot of you have had the ability to travel. Some haven't, but I would say travel. Put yourself in a position not to know. I would think that's one of my greatest experiences, is to have the courage to put yourself in an unknowing situation and see what that feels like, and communicate, negotiate, figure your way through, find your way through that time. It could open you up to something you would never have otherwise known. It's astonishing. I hope that answers your question. I learned that intelligence in Walter White, and I think it applies here very, very appropriately, is not necessarily wisdom. There's a distinctive difference between those two things. And intelligence is great, but it's probably more important to be wise.
If you're lucky enough to be in a business that you love to do, a creative one, and you make a living, I don't want to hear a complaint out of you.
Exactly.
I don't want to hear that you have to be here at 6 o'clock in the morning. We're acting. Look at us. So every job that I work on, where I lead the cast, I try to set that example so that I don't want to hear any complaints from anyone. There's enough artistic frustration within. A joke's not landing. This is not working. Oh, we need to recast because this didn't work out, or there's enough problems to deal with. You should not be dealing with any kind of problems of I don't want to be here that early, or how late do we have to stay, or some actors who don't want to be off camera for another actor. It's like,
Okay, I have some very specific things to say about auditioning. And it's something that happened to me about 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago now. I used to think, and I put it in the book because it's really important, it changed my professional life. If any of you can adapt this philosophy, and I think, honestly, it could change your professional life or the way you see things. What I perceived to be a job interview was an audition, right? It makes sense. They're auditioning, they're going to produce a television show or a commercial or a movie or a play or whatever it is, and they need to hire actors to do so, right? So I used to think that, well, I'm going in there to try to get a job. But when you put yourself in a position of need or want, what happens is that you relinquish power and control over to some unknown entity. It just evaporates out of you if you need and want something. You are not in a position of control. And in an audition, and this is the same thing when you're going in, if you're a writer or a dancer, if you're going in to pitch a story, to tell a story. As a director, I read this story, this is what I see. If you need and want that job, it'll show. It'll seep out, and people will be able to tell that there's a need or want there. Nobody wants to hire someone who actually needs a job. We want to hire people who are confident in what they're doing and saying and selling of themselves. So, do you know the feeling when you give something to another person? Let's say it's a present, and you're really excited because your friend is going to really love this present. They needed a scarf, and they're complaining about how cold it is. And here it is. And they open it up, and they, oh my God, this is what I need. It makes us feel great. Whether you're donating to a charity, or actually on a soup line, or helping someone, it makes us feel empowered to give, right? That's the same point of view you need to take into that room. I'm here to give you something of value. Now this is where it gets a little tricky, because you can't look at it in a conceited sort of self-centered way. My gift is so valuable to you, man. You are so lucky. I'm giving you a gift. You're welcome. It's not at all that. It is a quiet confidence. But if I ask every one of you if you were talented, you better say yes. And I don't want to hear the false modesty. Well, if you're doing that, if you're doing the dance of, well, I can't release it, then you don't belong in this profession. Sorry, but you have to develop and it's not being boastful. It's just saying, yes, I'm talented. And I own that, and I value my talent. So when I go into a room to pitch a story as a director or a writer or an actor to an audition, I am here to give you something. It may be the solution to your problem, but that's up to you. All I'm doing is giving you an option. I'm giving you an option. So when you come into a room and you have confidence, I'm on the other side now. I direct and produce, and I'm seeing people come in all the time pitching themselves. And I can tell immediately who has a sense of confidence and who is flop sweating with needs.
You can smell it.
You can smell it, and it doesn't smell pretty. It's true. And what happens is that confidence is it's addictive. You enjoy the feeling of that. It's also, you can catch it. If someone comes into the room and I sense confidence, you're giving me more confidence in evaluating what you're saying.
Do you know the moment when you really felt that for the first time and you knew you had it?
Yeah, there was back my seminal moments are in the late '60s, '70s, and through the early '80s. It was a very me generation. It was a very, very hedonistic time. And in the late '80s, things started to change. There were a lot of self-help things going on, if you remember Martha, Marianne Williamson, Werner Erhard, Leo Buscaglia, there were, Wayne Dyer, and it's like How to Be the Better You, and Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, all these things to try to understand ourselves better. And there was one guy, we were taking seminars with my then girlfriend, who's now my wife, and one guy said, success is just focusing all your attention on the thing that you do and love without having a claim on an outcome. So, think about that.
That's pretty cool.
You are putting all your focus and attention on what you do. So, as an actor, it changed everything for me. I went, oh, I'm not here to get a job. I'm here to do a job. Subtle difference, enormous effect. Just think about the difference. If you only went in that room to focus on what you do, create a compelling character and present it, and that's it, and you walk away, you've done your job. Everything else is outside of your purview. It's not your decision to call you back or whatever. I used to do that. Once that happened, it was free. A weight lifted off my shoulders. It doesn't mean you don't do the work. There's no shortcut for the work. I've been doing this for 37 years. I can tell you, there is no shortcut. You have to do work. It's hard work. It's a lot of work. So you better love it. But that's the second thing that happened as a residual effect of this was enormous too. I used to be very competitive. I used to look at someone in my age group and go, that fucker is really good. Why is he here? Oh man, okay, oh he's good too. I've seen his work. And you could make yourself crazy with all that. Because I'm here to get a job and they're trying to get my job, so it's like it's positioning and the testosterone comes out or whatever, the sense of competition. When I adapted this new philosophy, that all went. It all disappeared. So remember, I'm doing all my work without an attachment to an outcome. So I didn't claim ownership on that role. It wasn't mine. I'm doing this part and I'm presenting it. I'm done. So if I heard a friend got a job, that I also, it wasn't mine. So I could honestly celebrate my friend's job. That's what you want. This is what's going to sustain you through the year, through 37 years. If you don't make this change, a little seed of resentment will start to turn, and it starts to plant itself, and pretty soon it's a plant and a tree and a forest of resentment and anger. And you will self-implode because you have not given over. The idea that if someone else gets a job that you auditioned for or you pitched, and it's caving you in as a person, you need help. Start now, adapt this philosophy. It cleanses your spirit, man. It's so cool when you can earnestly tell someone who got the job that is in, you're like me. Oh, good, you got it. That's great. I'm happy for you. It was never mine. It's like me finding a wallet here, and I look at it, and oh, it's yours. I'm not angry. It's not mine. It's not mine. It's his wallet. So give it to him. Hey, I'm happy you found your wallet. Because what would God, if I lost my wallet, it'd be nice if someone found it, right? It is amazing what you can do if you just let that all go. You're here to do a job, not to get a job.
There's a real wonderful intimacy about film. When a camera can come in right to the eyes, you better not be caught acting, because if you're acting, it'll be seen. On stage, it's a little different. The way I'm sitting right now, the way I'm projecting right now is because I'm on stage. And I want to make sure that I reach everyone. And I know and I'm aware that if I sat back down here and just focus this way, that this part of the audience is going to just see the side of my head. So there's a sliver of awareness. So every actor on stage has that awareness, so that you want to be able to meet the eyes as often as you can and look up and stay, you know, they have the different levels. But the more comfortable you get in that sense, the more honest you can give it. So there's an ebb and flow relationship. An actor on stage will say something, it'll go out, it'll be received and processed and then sent back to the actor. And then again, so there's this relationship throughout the course of a play that you just can't get in film. So I like both mediums, and I like to go between them, just as I like to go between drama and comedy. So, like all of us, we have our favorite meal. But if I told you you had to eat your favorite meal every day, it would stop being your favorite meal. So we all have parts of us that are very serious and sincere, and we also have parts of us that are silly and fun. And so we want, as human beings, to be able to experience everything that we have, and it's no different as a performer. I want to be able to have fun and sometimes tell a serious story, sometimes a grave story, a very heartbreaking story. It depends. The hardest work that an actor has ever had to do is on poorly written material. The easiest work is on well-written material. Not that it's easy, but it's easier.
It's Aaron Paul, and he said that you're one of the most professional people he's ever worked with, but you're also the most immature person he's ever worked with. And I thought, there is something about you that beautifully is able to contain both. And I believe that. I like to think that I'm professional. I'm also a complete fool. And somehow I think it's possible to contain the two at the same time. Is that making sense to you?
I think so. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think you can be sincere and have the things you want to set up in your life and enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously. Don't feel you're entitled to anything. You're very lucky, and I think if you flow with that, you get a chance to have fun and goof around. But I think, I think it depends on how you were raised and the principles that you stand by. I really do. I think it's, I tell actors all the time, get your personal life in order. If you really want to be an actor, you have to get your personal life in order so that you don't flake out. If you get your first job and you have a nice big paycheck, don't go blow it on something. Put it away so that the more
it will sustain you.
So the longer you can be an actor, and make a living at it.
That's so fascinating, because I think there are probably a lot of young actors out there that think the other way. They think, there are people that think, in order to be a great artist, I must act like a maniac because the tail wags the dog. Well, it doesn't.
No.
You just need to be good at what you do, at your craft. You need to keep it together. But I think there are a lot of people that don't think that way. You know what I mean? That think, I'm in my 20s, I'm starting to make some money. Gravity is starting to lift. Everyone's treating me really nicely. It's time to fuck up.
Well, it's like, especially with men. Men are just boys that can shave. Because
wow, you really,
I'm going to take that one on the road.
You really got to Sona on that one. Sona, how's the marriage?
It's great. It's so funny.
Well, it's true, because we're very we're stimulated physically. We see a car. Oh my God, look at that car.
Yeah.
We see a beautiful person, male or female. Is, oh wow, look at that. Look at these things. Look at the gadgets. And we sometimes act upon it. We look as a boy. Oh, I want that chocolate. I want that thing. And as men, you have to look at it and go, I want that chocolate, but if I grab that chocolate, I'm going to feel such and such after. I want that woman, but I am married and I need to not do that. You know, you have to think of consequences behind every decision. That's basically the difference between a man and a boy.
Yeah. It's funny because it feels, I know that I've known Bob Odenkirk forever, and he gives you a lot of credit for helping him when he was starting out in his role on Breaking Bad, and he said that you were very good at telling him, you gotta know your lines, you gotta hit your mark, you gotta do the work beforehand, and that was your introduction to acting for him. Was you got to get your shit together before you go out there. And it's I've heard all kinds of stories over the years in this business, mostly behind the scenes, about very well-known actors that don't do that. They don't know their lines.
You'd be surprised.
Yes, and they're hanging out in their trailer for a while, and they're not just doing the work. And I think one of the times that we spoke, you had so much pride in the fact that you've been a working actor really your entire life, for the most part of your life, and that you have, and it's such a nice way to break it down, because we can all get existential about our career or where are we now. You're working, you're making things, you're paying your mortgage. It's a great way to, I think, kind of simplify it.
You know, I talked earlier about intelligence being different from wisdom. It's the same thing about new technology. It's massively impressive. Something I didn't have when I was young, but it is unbelievably addictive, this thing that we have here, that everyone has in the world. And it's amazing what it can do, but it is only a tool. And tools need to be used properly. Television was also maligned a lot, saying, oh, it'll rot your brain and that sort of thing. But that's a tool. In fact, if you look at all these things that we have before us as tools, and they're in your toolbox, you're able to use them. It's fantastic. But remember this one axiom, though. A tool is meant to be used. Don't let it use you. Don't just allow the floodgates of information to come into your psyche. Being bombarded with information doesn't make you wise. What makes you wise is you selecting what and how and when you want that information. Be the guard at your own gate. How many people now, and I will raise my hand right away, use it as a default. The first moment that you find yourself alone or with 5 minutes before you're supposed to do something, what do? Boom, you go on it. And you drop your head and you start looking here. There could be a rainbow over here, but it's like, look at this, I got to get this in. And you never know what's happening out there. So we forget to look at a tree. We forget to look at sculpture or architecture. We forget, because what do we see walking down the street? We see this, right? We see this. People doing this all the time, because this has become an extension of who they are. You take that away, how would you feel? Have you done that experiment yet? Take your phones away? And I was like, it's like you got to go through a withdrawal program, you know? But we're spoiled by it. But it's also not, it's also can take away the thought process. I'm sure you've been talking about that too. I was with my wife and our daughter many years ago. We were in the car and we were trying to remember a song that kind of became an anthem during our honeymoon. 28 years ago, whenever, it was a couple years ago we were doing it. And we were trying to remember the song. What was the song? What was it? Oh yeah, and she would have a little tidbit of information, and we were trying to put the puzzle together. And our daughter's in the back seat just going, well, just give me, who sang it? I'll just pop it up. I go, no, it's okay. And she couldn't understand why we didn't want to know the answer. And it's like, because we kind of want to figure this out. So it's easy for you to know where to go to get an answer. But it's sometimes more rewarding if you delay that. If you force yourself to think, how can I get to the answer just by conversation? Looking at a jigsaw puzzle. Is it rewarding if you come up and the jigsaw is already together? It's like, okay. But to figure it out, the problem skills, I think that's the biggest thing. So use all your big brains for that, is to allow yourself, like I said, allow yourself to get lost and work yourself out of it. Figure out how to get home. Figure out where you should be, or where, on your own. The challenge of that. Being in a foreign country with a language you don't speak and you have to communicate. Fantastic. Figure it out. Get lost. Take some risks. Make mistakes. It'll be all right. You'll be fine. I can't encourage that enough. It's so great to just figure out where you're supposed to be, and the great feeling you'll have of knowing that you managed it and that you were fine. That's all.